Hey, good morning, Pam.
Good morning, Kent.
Great to see you this morning. Well, it's great to see you any morning, any day. Uh,
Likewise.
Hey, thanks for taking time. I wanted to. I send a newsletter, kind of a blog thing out to some people I'm connected with. Try to do that about once a week, and I wanted to tell them about your book. But I got to thinking, why me tell them about your book when you can tell them about your book? So the book we're talking about is Five Strategies to Increase Annual Fund Revenue. And what was your name again?
Pam.
Oh yeah, Pam Witter. Hey, I don't know if you noticed this, but I opened the very first page in your book, and I noticed there's something missing. Does your publisher know this?
I don't know what's missing. You tell me.
Well, I looked in here, the place where the author is supposed to sign it, and it's blank.
We'll get to that, I promise.
I want to get your signature in my book,
Okay.
but more important than that, I want other people to get this book because it's just so powerful. In fact, I'll say this: it just gives you a little bit of a glimpse into Pam, the person, the phenomenon, the fantastic fundraiser. But I just a couple questions I want to ask you. First of all, in fact, I'll just roll them out. Question number one is, why did you write the book? I mean, I know you explain it, but if you could maybe just in a nutshell comment on that. And then secondly, the title is Five Strategies to Increase Annual Fund Revenue. I wonder if you would maybe just give a brief focus on one of those strategies, either that's your favorite or one that you have found to be most impactful with others as they implement it. So run with it.
Okay, thank you so much. First, let me just say thank you for doing this. I appreciate it so much, Kent. I've been a follower of yours for a long time and have learned so much from you. And I know there's a lot of people out there who really appreciate and love what you do. And so the fact that you're willing to share me with your audience means so much. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. It's mutual. You know that.
Yeah, I do. Thank you. So why did I write the book? It's an interesting question. I gave this a lot of thought, and I'm a learner. So
Yeah.
I took a test many of you have probably taken. It's called the Strength Quest assessment, and it gives you your top five strengths. And when I took this assessment, three of my top five were in that realm. It was input, intellection, and learner. And
Mm.
someone who's a facilitator of Strength Quest, actually a mutual friend of ours, Shara Hines, said,
Oh, yeah.
Pam, that's called the great triumvirate. You're all up in here, you're in your head, you're a learner. And so for me, anytime I've approached a big challenge in my life, that's how I've approached it, through learning. I feel like if you don't know the solutions, if you haven't experienced them yet, you have to learn them somehow. And you
Mm.
can learn them on the job. You can learn those solutions from listening to other people, from reading books. There's all kinds of ways to do that. Sorry, my phone's beeping. And so for me, when I worked at Houghton College, I started there in 2008. This was
Mm.
about 7 or 8 years into my career as a fundraiser and a nonprofit professional. And I took that job. I was working in stewardship. And I did the stewardship job for a while, had some amazing outcomes. And so, you know what happens in fundraising when you have good outcomes, right? They just start giving you more things to
That's
take
right.
over. So it was about a year into the job, and they said, why don't you take over the annual fund? And I
Mm.
said yes, because I say yes to everything. And then they said, why don't you increase revenue for our annual fund from, it was about 700,000 a year, to a little over 1 million. Can you do that? And I thought, wow, that's a 40% increase in revenue on an annual basis. It was a little terrifying. And inside myself, I flinched. Maybe more than flinched. I may have ran and screamed for my life for a little while, but nobody knew that.
You flinched?
I did. I flinched a lot.
I don't think I've ever seen this, Pam.
You've seen me cry though, so definitely I cried. So I thought about that, and my reaction is, let's run towards the challenge.
Mm.
And so I started what I call learning journey, which is one of the strategies in the book. I call it best practices, but this learning journey took my colleagues and I on a road trip to a bunch of different colleges and nonprofits where we were discovering all these solutions that we could apply, and we started to do the work applying these solutions to our annual fund. And over a couple year period, we got really far, but we could not close the gap. We just weren't able to do it. And so we started to think about what is it we're missing? And I couldn't come up with anything, if I'm being honest. I had exhausted all of the learning I could possibly pour into this annual fund. I was at my wit's end. And it was at that point that they brought in a man by the name of Kent Stroman to work with us. And the learner that I am, I was so excited that maybe there's something more, and I'll never forget the first meeting that we had face to face. And you asked me these questions like, Pam, how many prospects do you have to close the gap on this goal? What's your plan to visit with them? How are you going to make these asks? Do you know how many gifts you need of each size? And I was just dumbfounded, because so many of us who are working on annual funds, we grew up in fundraising offices. We're not gift officers. You know what I mean? We're not running nonprofits or fundraising programs. We kind of grow up in this. People don't today, or at least when I was coming up in fundraising, people didn't say, hey, I'm going to go to college and become a fundraiser.
Yeah.
You kind of landed in it, right?
Right.
And so you learned on the job. Well, this wasn't a skill I had ever been taught. And so when you brought that to me, it was just mind-blowing. And you and I and my team spent some time together. And in that last, 6-7 months, we raised between $80,000 and $100,000 through that final strategy. And so when it was all said and done, you asked me the question, why did you write the book? When it was all said and done, how can I not share this with the world?
Yeah, great point.
You know what I mean? How can I not? I found transformative, innovative solutions that helped my nonprofit mission grow and thrive so that we could provide, it was an additional $300,000+ in scholarships to our students.
Wow.
People that were going to go out and change the world with their education. How can I not share that with other nonprofits that are trying to impact their communities and do great things? So writing the book was really my opportunity to share this beautiful learning process with the world. And in the book, I call it Precious Cargo for Your Nonprofit Mission.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Anyone who has a chance to read the book, my promise to you is that what you'll find is precious cargo. This is incredible learning that helped us to raise a lot of money. People thought we couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And it also transformed my career in the process. So just amazing stuff.
Yeah. So I just want to speak for just a moment to the camera because, and by the way, I think your microphone may be touching your
Okay.
But the reason I want to ignore you for a minute is because Pam is really modest, and I don't want to embarrass her, so if you'll just kind of plug your eyes. So Pam is the annual fund goddess. And the reason I say that is there are a lot of people who kind of work in my space focused on campaigns and major guest fundraising. Every organization, every nonprofit organization, whether they're in a campaign or not, and whether they're working on major gifts or not, is in the annual fund business. I might not call it that, but that's what it is. And Pam, you have done such a great job of capturing the essence of the annual fund and the importance of it and the ongoing sustainability of it. This space belongs to you. And so I don't know if you've accepted the tag or not, but I'm just dubbing you the annual fund goddess.
Thank you.
So anyhow, with that, what would you say is maybe one of your favorite or most impactful of the 5 strategies?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about 2 of them. My personal favorite is the strategy that relates to creating quality messages to transform your mission. And that's only because my biggest passion in life is writing. And from the time I was a little girl, I just loved to write. I would have this ache in my fingertips, you know,
Mm.
and I would write these crazy long letters to pen pals and things like that. And my parents would laugh hysterically. And, you know, I've always been a writer. I'm a poet. I've written 2 other books. So to me, crafting quality messages is the most fun art form that relates to fundraising. But in the book, I talk about it in a different way. So, you know, I have my bachelor's in journalism and communications. I have an MBA, and I oversee the marketing division of a college, and we write the integrated marketing plan every year. And so I've taken all of that education and experience and translated it to the field of fundraising. And there's a good section in the book that really talks about the importance of branding and repeating messages in your annual fund to create loyalty and trust with your donors. I talk a lot about pinpointing the scope of the ask and talking to donors in words that resonate with them based on research, based on what you know about your donors and their character. And I talk about things like using segmentation to overcome the challenge of mass communication. But I'm going to set that aside for a minute. I could talk about writing all day long. And frankly, what I've found in the field is that there are a lot of writers in fundraising. There's a lot of artists in fundraising who get into this work because they love to share messages and they're really passionate about sharing messages. So to me, what I think maybe the most transformative principle in the book for annual fund fundraisers is applying the major gift model to your annual fund. And to me, you know, we can learn a lot about fundraising, and I was able to do that, but it wasn't until I began to take a different perspective on the annual fund. And Kent, you really helped me do this, and it's changed my life in a lot of ways. I'm not saying that to be corny. I mean it. It really has affected me. You know, when you start to think about the annual fund as a campaign, just like a capital campaign, and you think about it as I have 12 months, what's my campaign plan? How many gifts do I need? What does my giving pyramid look like? And you start to build those out. You look at your base of donors in the annual fund, and you start to identify those donors who have the capacity to give a leadership gift for the annual fund and make face-to-face visits. Gasp! Making a face-to-face visit, believe it or not, in the annual fund, you can do that.
Yeah.
And this is a process that just literally, as an annual fund professional with 8 years experience, blew my mind. I had no idea. Nobody had even ever suggested that to me at any place I had ever worked. And so beginning to learn how to translate the major gift model to an annual fund is transformative. In 6 months, I mentioned this before, we were able to raise between $80,000 and $100,000 in direct asks to donors just because we did that. And it was a goal that was so elusive, it was making us a little mentally sick. You know, we're thinking, how do we get there? How do we get there? And so that strategy to me is my favorite. I use this strategy every day in my work. And now I run, you know, I'm the executive over the fundraising and marketing division of my college. And I've got people that run the annual fund that make visits. And I'm teaching these young professionals that are coming up in fundraising these principles every day. And they're so grateful because it's not something we come across, you know. So I think that's probably the most powerful part of the book, and maybe what will get you to your goal.
Yeah. Well, and so I've got to say a big thank you, and I wish, I wish we could do the same thing on each of the other 5 strategies. But the purpose of today isn't to video the book; it's to encourage people to get the book, and not just to have another book on the shelf, but because the subtitle Pam has is Groundbreaking Fundraising Solutions for Nonprofits. And I, just like you, Pam, I've read a lot of fundraising literature, and what you have here really is groundbreaking. They are transformative solutions, and they're applicable, I'm going to say, to organizations regardless of the scope, the focus, the scope, the sophistication, there's good stuff for anybody in here who works at any point in fundraising. So, so to the viewers, I just want to encourage you to get the book. If you have a chance to ever meet Pam, to hear her speak, or to bring her to your organization, she's a tremendous resource in our field, in our industry. So, Pam, thanks for taking this time today to share a few of your thoughts. And I look forward to the next time we can connect, and I hope it won't be long.
Me too, Kent. Thank you so much.
And have a great day.
All right, you too.